To MIX. Last day. Thanks for staying. Hopefully this will be worth your time. I think it will be. Got some exciting stuff. We obviously announced the Virtual or Silverlight map control as a CTP on Wednesday. And if you tried to download the bits, you're probably wondering where they are. Well, as of right now, when my session started, they're available for download. So if you want to hack, go ahead and hack during my session. Make sure that the code I'm showing you is actually accurate. Feel free. You can validate my presentation. That's totally fine. So yeah, we got some exciting stuff. I'm going to show, this show is a balance of developers and designers. So I've got some code. Actually, I have lots of code, but I've got some pretty pictures too. So we'll go through a lot of that. I'm not going to go 500 level on you, but I will give you the basics of how to use the Silverlight map control. I've got some exciting demos, some demos that have already been put out there on the web, and we'll go through them, talk about how they were built, and I think you will enjoy today. So let's see. Okay, here's the agenda. So we'll go through the world as we know it, what's out there today, kind of an evolution of mapping, if you will, and why this is so important, why this is beneficial, why Silverlight matters, right? Then we'll actually go into the control. I'll talk about the control, what the functions are, what the features are, and then we'll dive into the code after that, how to navigate the map. We'll talk about actually leveraging XAML. So there's two ways to leverage the virtual or Silverlight map control. You can use XAML, or if you want interaction, you use C#.NET. So our class libraries today are C#. For the CTP. We'll talk about how to get a map. So just a very simple application with 2 lines of code just to get a map. We'll talk about how to configure your map application. Came up with that myself. Basically, going through the XAML and some of the features you can use in XAML to make your map more robust. Okay. And then we'll talk about the C# aspect of it, how to make your website a little more interesting, a little more dynamic. Okay. We'll do adding data to the map. So push pins, polygons, polylines, things like that. For those of you in mapping today, you probably want that. And then Silverlight's all about media. So adding rich media to the map. We'll show you how to do that and how to leverage some of the tools in Silverlight for doing that. And then finally, we'll talk about the virtual web services which launched last fall and how to leverage those as a part of your Silverlight application. So then we'll go through how to get it and Q&A and stuff. Okay. So first, we started with paper maps. So this is just kind of my presentation. I'll talk about why it just didn't work for us and why we keep evolving. At some point, we're going to hit the end, right? Right? We won't evolve anymore. And, I don't know, maybe it'll just be, like Star Wars and you've got the, photon thing hanging in the sky. But we start with paper maps. Well, paper maps, they're obviously not digital. That's not functional. And then we went to digital maps, and they didn't scale very well. They weren't scaled properly. This is actually off of a website today. Then we went to static maps, right? So I could dynamically create a map, but it was static. It didn't do anything. It just showed me a location, and that was good, right? This is the 90s. That was pretty good. But it didn't scroll. I couldn't move it. I had to wait for it to redraw. Well, then we went to, skipped one, there we go. Digital static, okay. Then we go to Ajax maps, right? Well, they're great, right? When Google came out with Google Maps, it was all right. I mean, that was it. It was great. Until you wanted to add a lot of data to the map. Not performant enough, right? We're greedy, we want more. Okay, so then we go to a flash map, right? Now, I don't know about you, but Flex is kind of a challenging environment to work in. I know a lot of designers will probably throw stuff at me for saying that, but it is kind of a one-off language. And as a Microsoft developer, 6 million plus, you want to leverage the knowledge you already have. You don't want to have to relearn a design environment and then how to code in Flash and Flex. So then we go to Silverlight. Okay? And that's I'm still looking for a downside. I mean, there is the plug-in aspect, but you're going to have to deal with that anyways, and maybe Silverlight will ship with something else, you know, the browsers or whatnot. I don't know. All right. So let's talk about the control itself. How do we navigate the map? Let me pull up a little application here. Actually, let's go over here. So you can do this today. You can go to connect.microsoft.com. Oops, we need to switch. Sorry. Let's see. And once you get in here, you'll see all of this. So what you will do today, you will log in, and you will download a DLL, and you will download a chum file, which is the SDK. Okay? And you also have access to our interactive SDK, which I'll go through in detail in a second, but I just want to show some of the aspects of the Silverlight map control. Now, before I do that, I want to show you the difference so you appreciate what's going on. So now I'm going to load our current live search, live search maps, Ajax client, okay? Now, it's, like I said, Ajax is pretty good. Yeah, let's switch to aerial. And I can skip zoom levels and get down. You know, but I still kind of have a delay. I don't like that. Let's try it in Silverlight. Let's switch to aerial. So Silverlight provides you with a rich transition between zoom levels and panning. So as those tiles that are loading, all of our maps are actually tiled out. They're pre-rendered, so that's how we get this, you know, the quick Ajax loading. So we're just leveraging the same data set we had before, but now we're doing it through the Silverlight interface. And we can just zoom all the way down. And in fact, you know, so one of the things that we do is we opened up a few more zoom levels in our imagery. Okay? Typically stop around 19, zoom level 19, I should say. I'll show you the difference here. Oops. So this is as far as I can go today. We can go a little bit deeper now. This is deep zoom, right? So how's that for performance? And did I mention we now have world wrap? So you can actually grab this map and not hit an edge. I'd show it to you over here, but it'd take too long. So some great performance. We reintroduced the zoom bar. So we have, you know, zoom capabilities here, but now we've got this actual bar so you can zip down to a specific altitude, if you will. As I double-click to zoom in, you'll see the map tries to recenter on where I'm clicking to. So some little idiosyncrasies that make it a much richer experience for navigating the map. Let's talk about let's see what else we got here. Let's go back. So that's the control in and of itself. Very basic, but very rich. You get that Silverlight experience, the multi-image scaling, and then the fluidity of transitions. So here we go. So what are the advantages, right? Well, we talked about the rich interactive mapping experience. We're opening up abilities that you really can't do in Ajax. If you're familiar with Ajax, you have to deal with the DOM issue, right? The document object model, and trying to just jam a bunch of XML down onto the client, the browser just chokes, right? Both Microsoft and our competitors who have Ajax mapping, we all choke around 500 pins. So building in Silverlight brings that advantage of not having to worry about DOM issues. Okay? Because we're in Silverlight, Silverlight's all .NET, we can add, well, not all .NET, but we can leverage our .NET skills in C# and develop and carry them forward into our actual Silverlight experience. Okay? So we're not out trying to find some third party, trying to find hacks, things like that. We've got a code base. In fact, the Silverlight map control, it relies heavily on Silverlight. Okay? We didn't go out and build pushpin class, for example, right? Today in the Ajax control, you have the concept of a pushpin class, where you have to instantiate a class for pushpins and then pass in an array of lat longs, and you'll add pins to the map. Well, we don't need to do that because Silverlight already does that, right? And they're not pins, they're just drawing tools with brushes. So we're leveraging all of the tools that Silverlight brings to the table, but we're able to convert pixels to lat longs and allow you to extend that capability into the Silverlight map control. As you can see, Silverlight's pretty big, especially at this show. It is our next generation web platform. We're investing heavily in Silverlight. So Virtual Earth just followed suit and provided this experience. And then the performance capabilities, you'll see what I'm talking about there. When you see some of the demonstrations, I'll give you things that you couldn't even imagine, you couldn't even try to do in Ajax. You'll be able to do now. And it really opens up the creativity that you have. All the designers in the room, they have these limitations. They make these nice designs, and then we hackers just go in there and just kind of tear it up and say, you know what, this is what it has to look like anyways, so for it to work. So we're kind of taking that away, and we're giving designers a little more freedom. So this is how data flows through Virtual Earth today. You'll see on the far right, everything, I guess that's your left, everything hosted inside of Virtual Earth. Tons and tons of data, all the imagery, maps, all hosted in there today. There's actually 3 different platforms you can choose from, 2 of them being SOAP-based, 1 of them being Ajax. And depending on how you're architecting your application, you can have the data flow through different mediums to get down to your end user, right? So if you want to control that data, you can use, or at the server level, you can use the SOAP product. Or if you just want to push it down and have that rich interactive experience, you can use the Ajax control. Well, now we add Silverlight, and it just allows you to push so much more data down. So now we have 4 platforms for you to choose from as a part of that. All right, so some of the core features for the Silverlight map control. Okay? Now we're going to start talking about the actual features in the code. And to be very clear, we're talking about the platform. Okay? This is not live search. We're not going to talk about Silverlight and live search. We're talking about the platform that you would use in your applications. So you can leverage this control in your applications. All right? So basic stuff. You want to get a map. You want to set the map mode. So you can have a map just load, or you can have it load in road or aerial with labels. Okay? You can set the map view, so based on a bounding box, zoom level, center point, things like that. You have that level of control, things you kind of would expect. User control of the map. You can override our events, things like that. So if you wanted to override a certain mouse event, for example, using the mouse wheel, zooms in and out, you can override that and make it scroll up and down, left to right, whatever you want. So a lot of control built in. You could override keyboard events, and there are events built into the control as well. So for example, if you wanted to pan the map and you want to know when the map is done panning, we'll fire an event, you catch it, you make something else happen, right? The viewport projection calculation is pretty interesting. We'll convert the lat long to a viewport point, and that just means a pixel on the screen equals a lat long. Okay? So you can convert those, and that allows you to leverage your Silverlight toolkit to do paintings and video brushes and image brushes and all of that. Layer support, so the concept of layers is big for Virtual Earth, okay, and in the GIS world in general, or Geographic Information Systems. So when you talk about mapping and rendering information, everything is usually done in layers. So you consider the map a base layer, and you want to add a layer of data, polygons, a layer of lines, a layer of push pins. You would do all that using our layer methods. And you could do fixed size so that push pin always remains the same. As you scroll in and out, it remains the same. Or you can use some of the scaling elements, because you could tie it to a pixel, or you could tie it to a lat long, and it will allow you to scale the image down. So as we zoom in and out, your objects on top of the map will scale with you. Okay? And I've got some illustrations of that too in the demos. And then finally, with the Virtual Earth Web Service, we used Windows Communication Foundation to build a rich set of algorithms for calculating geocoding. So geocoding is converting addresses to lat longs, or lat longs to addresses, reverse geocoding. Our imagery source, I'm not sure you'd really use that, but there's some metadata tied to our maps. So if you wanted to get the vintage of when an aerial photo was taken, for example, you can get that through the imagery service. You could use our routing service, calculate a route, get the route geometry back. That's something that's unique to Microsoft. You can actually get the geometry that makes up the roads out of the service as an array and then drop that down onto the Silverlight client. Now, I've tried to do that in Ajax, and if you have a long route, it's a huge file that comes back to you. But being able to do it in Silverlight is it's stellar. The performance is really great. We have a search service, so if you wanted to leverage our yellow page listings, nearly 20 million yellow page listings as a part of the API. You have access to all of that as a part of this service. And then I mentioned geocoding already. So some rich geocoding. We have worldwide coverage for geocoding. It's interesting. Geocoding is a funny thing because the most upset person with me is the person who can't find their house, right? You don't find my house. When was it built? Well, 6 months ago. Okay. Well, it isn't in the data yet. There's a long process that goes into collecting data, adding it to the repository, testing it, and then getting it deployed. So we're making some improvements there. But you do have access to some worldwide geocoding data and then street-level data for, almost 30 countries around the world. Okay, so these are some of the key classes that you're going to want to know once you get in to Silverlight development. The UI element, that's a UI element, right? It's adding something to the map, right? You're going to do that through a UI element, like an ellipse or a bounding box, something, a rectangle, something like that. So you're going to leverage that to do that. A panel is a Silverlight object that basically hosts, it can host buttons, it can host all kinds of things, but it will overlay nicely onto a map. You can set opacity, look through it, things like that. Then you've got the canvas. So the canvas is a big part of this where you're going to start overlaying data, you're going to start overlaying the maps, and you're going to add it all to the canvas. So you can actually, the canvas is where you specify where panels go and whatnot. And then the user control itself, that's what Silverlight, the Silverlight map control is. It is a Silverlight, or it's a user control, that's built for you to leverage and start building some cool apps. So the classes that you're going to want to use, map is the big one, right? Once you get in there and you start looking at how do I do this, how do I do that, most likely it's going to be in map, okay? So, and again, we'll do code walkthroughs and whatnot, but it is the Silverlight control that represents the actual map that you see, okay? It's got all of the properties for viewing the map, setting the map mode. You're going to have your child containers tied to that. So if you add a child, is what kind of the JavaScript thinking. You add a child to the map. That's where you're going to overlay the polygons and things like that, right? It also has the events that you would register to catch things that are happening on the map. So if you wanted to capture frames as they move along, if you wanted to capture clicks, you're going to capture those out of map. Okay. Next one is the map view specification, and a lot of this you can do with map, but map view specification is a little more specific. So being able to set the center using lat long, being able to set heading and zoom level as a part of the map view specification gives you more control as a developer. To specify exactly what your user's seeing when they click a specific link or go to a specific spot in the map. The map mode, so in VirtualWorks today, we have the concept of map mode. And it's 2D or 3D, right? We have a 3D client it's a managed client that just runs through ActiveX. But it is the base class for all map modes now. So if you wanted to set what was formerly map style, so if you want to leverage aerials with labels, roads, you would actually do that by setting the map mode. Map layer, so adding layers. We talked about the concept of layers. If you want to add a layer to the map, this is what you're going to leverage. You get into map layer and start adding layers and layers of data to the map. Positioning the map, and then the offset, that's actually pretty important. So today, if you wanted to specify where on the map a specific push pin goes, well, the push pin's got dimensions too. So let's say you have a 50 by 50 push pin, and you want to set it somewhere on the map. You can actually specify, do you want it top left, bottom right, middle, bottom center, things like that. You can specify that as a part of our control now. So we give you very intricate details of how you can leverage adding data to the map. Map polygon is obviously adding polygons to the map, and map polyline is adding lines. Okay, so let's build an app, shall we? So I have the control local here, and I told you I would do this in 2 lines of code. So first thing we need to do is I'm in VS 2008. I'm going to add a new project. And we'll just call it Silverlight Application 1. That's fine. I like to host it all in one file. You can also create, because Silverlight runs in the web, you have to actually host it in a web page. I host them all in the same web page, so I'd love to do that. Okay, so this is the default layout for when you fire up any Silverlight project. Okay, this is how it starts. So first thing I want to do, I actually want to delete that line because I want a full screen map. So I need to register the actual control here. So I'll go to my references. I'll add a reference. And I will browse. Actually, let's go to recent. Okay, so I've got my DLL. So this is the DLL you're going to get off of Microsoft Connect. You download that, you run a small installer, and it drops the DLL and the SDK. And here's the chum file. So we're just going to add that reference to our project. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we need to reference. We need a variable to reference the actual map. So we're going to use M, and this is optional. We use M because M for map, and then I'm just going to point it to the control and the assembly. Okay, so that's one line of code, right? I've got my serial namespace here. I've got my assembly here. And it's just pointing to Microsoft Virtual Earth Map Control. Okay? Next thing I want to do, M, : map. And I'm done. So we'll fire this up. And this is the error you will see. You will see this because Silverlight won't allow you to reference files on a local directory from HTTP and vice versa. Okay? So once you see this, don't freak out. You simply need to fire up your server and hit it via HTTP because all the tiles are accessed via HTTP. Okay? So I think we called it Silverlight Application 1. One test page, probably, .aspx. Boom. So that's the application I built. With 2 lines of code, and it could be 1 because I did take 1 out, right? I took the height and width out, so I could calculate it to 1. But just like that, I get the Silverlight map control, all of its wonderful scroll capabilities, the aerial photos, things like that, and all of the deep zoom greatness. Okay? What about bird's eye? We'll talk about that later. So this is the code, in case you couldn't see it on Visual Studio. I know it's kind of hard to read, but these are the 2 lines of code that I posted. Pretty simple stuff, just to get a map. If you just want a map to let people scroll around, but most people don't just want a map. They want to highlight something on a map, right? Okay, so let's talk about configuring the application for users to actually do something with the map or see something specific. So what we'll do first here, oops, let's go back here. I'm in debug. Okay, so you'll see all these options that come up, like mode. So I talked about, leveraging map as the one class you're going to need. So we go to map mode, and we can set it to aerial with labels, for example. Save that. And let me just refresh this first. So we're in road now. I'm going to compile this. And when I refresh, it will be in aerial with labels. So just leveraging some of that XAML capabilities gives you more control. I could specify the center point. I could specify zoom level, things like that. All part of this map class. Okay. So how do we do that? Well, let's see, do I highlight this? First thing we're going to do here. There. Okay, so now I still have my 2 lines of code, but we've got a little bit more customization built in here, right? We've got the link to the assembly, and then we've got the map class. We're specifying the center by pointing it to a lat long. We're specifying the mode, and we're specifying navigation visibility, and then we're specifying the zoom level, right? I want it to zoom all the way down to a specific location. So if we do that, I'll just compile again. I won't bore you with coding in front of you. So now it will actually, well, it'll specify. That's great. Yeah, we're in the middle of the Atlantic. I should have specified a center point. Yeah, so just giving you more control, though. If I pass in a center point, specific lat long, it'll zoom down to that specific zoom level and give me what I'm looking for. Specific. Okay. There we go. All right. Now what about adding data to the map? Okay, this is where it gets interesting. We want to add push pins to the map. So I've got a demo here. This is the code we'll walk through. Take a look at that. So I want adding push pins. All right. So I built this demo. Just took a few minutes. And basically I've got a panel full of buttons on the right. And those buttons, when I click them, they just zoom down into specific cities, and leveraging the ellipse function in Silverlight, I'm going to actually just put a quote-unquote push pin at a specific location. Okay? So how do we do that? Well, let's pull that up, and we'll just kind of walk through that, because I want to make some changes and make it interesting. Okay, so 2 parts to this, right? First, I need that push pin, so I need to add a map layer. Right? I'm going to do that because I'm going to register those in the XAML. Okay. Everything below this map is all about the panel, so I'm not worried about that. It does have lat longs because I read the tags for lat longs to specify where it goes, but really you want to focus on right in here. So we're hitting this map class. I've got an X name for my map, and just specifying the grid. So grids are like tables in HTML. Okay. Then I'm going to add children to the map. So I talked about that concept of adding a child to the map. This is where I'm going to actually add that layer of data. So adding the child and then adding a map layer. allows me to put data on the map now. Okay, so what about the C# stuff? All right. So what I'm doing here is, as the map view changes, I know where the map's going to go. So one of the events that you can capture is, tell me where the map is going. Give me the location of where the map's going so I can do something before it gets there. Okay? So I can make a database call while the map's scrolling and render information onto the map. And then I could create my UI element kind of on the fly. That's why it looks the way it does. And you can see this happening. The map never arrives at these points, but it still draws them, because we've given you the power of knowing where the map is going. Okay? So that's one thing. And then these are all Silverlight classes here that I'm using. So I just used a standard brush, right, a solid color brush. But now, in the mapping world, a lot of what you want to do in GIS is analyze what's happening where, right? And we've never been able to do that in a really robust way. So now we can actually leverage things like linear gradients and the different brushes that are available with Silverlight. So let's do this. So now, I just changed one line of code because I've already got my classes built out for these brushes. Okay, I've got a linear gradient, I've got a radial gradient, I got an image brush, and I got a video brush. So let's do this. So getting that kind of linear gradient, never been able to do that with an Ajax map. It's extremely difficult if you try to do it. But it basically is just a flat image. But this is a dynamic image. This is using painting techniques, right? I could change this on the fly as data changes. I don't have to take a rasterized photo and stick it on a map and then try to update that later. I'm actually just going to use some of the gradients that are available as a part of this. And we can change this to radial. And we'll refresh. And now we've got this radial gradient brush, right? And we could do this on the fly, too. I could have built in logic that said, based on the data coming in, change the type of brush. Right? Okay. So let's go back to this. So this is how we do it, right? I pretty much walked through this. In fact, this is a different one. So we won't go through it again. I won't make that painful for you. But let's see. Let's add more data to the map. Let's look at something a little more interesting, right? We are dealing with the Earth. I keep leaving you behind. I apologize. Let's build this one out. Make this server. So I've got a local instance of SQL Server 2008 running on my box. It has spatial support now. Okay, so SQL 2008 came with spatial, and what that means is I can now save geography and geometry types in SQL Server, and it's in SQL Server Express. Not a lot of people know that. So for SQL Server Express, you can actually have a spatial awareness in your database. So here we are with our Silverlight map control, and I'm going to slide out a panel here. This panel is going to connect to my SQL Server, and it's going to go grab this huge database of lat longs that outline all the countries. Now that's performance. Try to do that in Ajax. Not going to happen. Not anytime soon. You can come back after I'm done, and it might be done. Okay? So there's that. So this is leveraging a lot of the polygon classes that are involved with the map control, and converting all of the lat longs, all of the huge database that's running on my box, spitting out lat longs, using the polygon tools, the drawing tools that come with Silverlight, and it all comes together on the map. And you can throw events on top of these polygons, things like that, and I will show you that in a little bit. All right. Animated elements? Do we support it? Yeah. Yeah, I've got a demo of that. The question was, do we support animated elements? Yes. Okay, so for adding polygons, it's very similar to the pin. You just you add a layer, and then you set the stroke, which is the border, and the thickness, the fill, and then you add that as a child to the map. Okay. So for this particular demo, we actually we want to create a location collection, which is basically a container for an array of pins. Okay, think of it that way. So you jam your array of pins into the location collection, and that'll actually just return the points, and then spit it back down to the client to render the polygons. So, and that's what the end game is there. Okay. Sure. What is stored in the database? Yes. It's a collection of lat longs that define the border countries, or the country borders. Yeah, based on lat long. We'll do questions at the end. I've saved some time at the end, I think. Okay. What else? What else? Oh, okay. So I mentioned that there are sites out there that have already launched, right? So On the Road launched. I love this because it's my favorite book, but you can go to On the Road. Ooh, my login's not on this computer. I'm going to have to go over here. Okay. So On the Road is kind of, it's like a digital library, if you will, of your travels. Okay. So you just, or I'm sorry, did I say library? I meant diary. It's a diary of your travels, so you can document your travels wherever you go. It's a great place to just go, and you can add photos to the map and just talk about your actual trip. So here they're using the Silverlight control. They were pretty quick to add it. And you can see here, leveraging the media that comes with Silverlight. So we've got push pins, rollovers, so we're catching events. We've got pictures. Right? We can click on that. Get out of there. And you can see they're using the scaling techniques. So the images, as I zoom in, are scaling with my zoom levels. And then at some point, they stop. And you can double click to get a bigger picture of it. So it's a great way to illustrate adding data to the map that's relevant. Using some of the, the push pin, the ways for adding push pins to the data, adding media to the data, which I'll go through in a second as well. And using the scaling techniques for as you zoom in, the images grow with your experience. All right? So Earthware got a lot of buzz at this show, at least with my team. All right? I need this URL. One sec. So this is the obligatory demonstration that you have to have with our maps. There. Okay, there we go. So Earthware was quick to jump on the Twitter API. Okay, So now we've got some pretty interesting things happening here. First of all, obviously leveraging the Silverlight map control now. So you can see how fast those tiles are loading, the transitions down, and we're following people on Twitter. Okay? We'll zoom in all the way down to where they are, or to a specific zoom level based on the imagery available. We'll get some information about what the user's doing, a picture. So we're getting this from the Twitter API. And then you see they've used the ellipse to mount another map to give you a higher level understanding of where that person is. So it's a pretty cool app. You can sit here and watch this all day. People are doing weird things around the world, I tell you. They also have the full screen button. So if we wanted to go full screen, we can take over the whole screen. So full screen exclusive, which is nice. So being able to add data in different ways, this is what we'd love to see, this kind of innovation. And using Silverlight allows you to do it a lot easier, a lot faster using your .NET skills as a part of your development. All right, let me go back here. Turn this on. All right. All right, so what about adding media to the map? It's a very similar concept, and Silverlight makes it very easy. So when you're adding your push pins or your polygons to the map, you can use an image brush. And using an image brush is fantastic, right? Because now you can shape your images, set the opacity, and fit images and video into places you never could before. Okay? So again, we're going to append this layer as a child to the map. We're going to specify the viewport. Okay? I want it to go into a very specific region at a very specific zoom level. And then I'm going to start leveraging the brushes. Okay? So let's talk about that. Let's show that. So I'm back on this map, and at a very simple level, we can go in, back to here, and change this to an image brush, for example. Oops. Killed it. Respond. Well, while that's waiting to respond, I could talk about the image brush itself. So as a part of the image brush, we could specify the alignment of the actual image with regards to the actual, when we're adding it to the canvas or to the actual layer, excuse me. Specify the source, and then specify the opacity for the image itself. Let's see if, why isn't this responding? I don't like you. I should have upgraded to IE8, I suppose. Let's try again. Is that the one I want? No. I'm told the coldest story ever told, somewhere far along. So, as a part of adding media, I talked about that. We can add video. So now I've got my world.
We begin this year,
and I can view video in a completely different way.
Unprecedented crisis that calls for unprecedented action.
Something a little more relevant.
Just this week, we saw more people file for unemployment than at any time in the last 26 years.
So this could be the new background for viewing world leaders. And the video scales.
Good evening.
As I zoom in on the map.
In the last 3 months, the global financial crisis.
Yeah.
Good evening. In the last 3 months, the global financial.
I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, maps are maps, and they can get a little stale. So you have to make them fun, right? I created the North Pole or the Santa Claus tracker this year for MSN, and as a part of that, I made this video. And so this is kind of fun, right? I took the video and added it right into, well, it's Canada, but that's as close as I get to the North Pole. So, and then can make it really fun, right? And Kanye gave away my little secret here. So if I want to go China, go clubbing at China. Or if I want to just go see Lady Gaga down in Brazil, I can do that. So make it real fun. So being able to do this, we make mapping fun, right? Just some fun stuff, right? Leveraging Silverlight. Okay. Close that. Leaking all over the place. And there's my girl, Lady Gaga. All right. Now, what about the web service? So I want to geocode. I want to get routing information. I need to get imagery vintage information, the metadata. Well, how do I do that? There's a whole SDK on the Virtual Earth web service. But as a part of this demo, we'll show you how to actually leverage the web service and use it in an application. Now, for the designers in the room, just drink your coffee because this might get a little boring. But basically, we're going to register a WCF connection to the web service, okay? And by doing that, that gives us access points to the service in the cloud. So Virtual Earth service in the cloud, you can now access it through all these classes through a very robust web service, okay? So what we're doing here, we register our WCF. It actually will create proxies for us to make communications to the cloud from our application, okay? And I don't necessarily want to walk through this because this is actually Virtual Earth web service, but just to talk about it a little bit. Being able to connect to a geocoding engine through WCF, you're going to instantiate your client right in your application. So once you register the proxies for the WCF, you will then start building methods against the classes that are in the cloud. And to geocode, for example, right, convert an address or a place of interest to a coordinate, which is what you need to put it on the map, you can actually do that using the geocode client, connecting to the service by passing a SOAP packet up to the cloud, and then getting a response back in SOAP, and then parsing it down and rendering it onto your application. Okay? That's the flow of data that you would do. And there's tons of information on our WCF service. So we don't have to go into too much detail, but just going through this, you're making requests, you're getting responses back, you're parsing them down. We have parsers built in for Visual Studio and .NET, obviously, and then rendering that information by using that geocode client request onto the map. Okay? Okay. Let's talk about the SDK. All right, so there is a downloadable SDK that you can run locally. So what we'll do here is we'll actually go out to it. So I gave you a little glimpse of it before, but the interactive SDK is a great way to springboard your development, okay? You could literally copy and paste and run these applications right in your client. So we'll do this. Oops. So go up to Microsoft Connect, and you'll see it right here. And it'll just launch off. It's obviously built in Silverlight too, or also. So if you want to just show a map, the default map view, you can see the interactive SDK here. We've got a subset of the features. Not everything's built into this. This is just to give you an idea of some of the things you can do, probably the most useful things that you'll want to do, and just springboard you right into development. So I want to do that. I want to see the source code for that. And this is that two-liner that I told you about prior to, right? Registering the namespace and the assembly, and then specifying map. What if I want to show it without navigation? I just turned off the navigation bar. Okay, how do I do that? Okay, I can actually collapse some of the different aspects of the map. You'll see the logo's gone too. That's an interesting demo. Show it in road mode. Again, we're just in the XAML now, just editing XAML code. Area with labels. So there's 3 map modes now, for now. Showing multiple maps. So if you wanted to, load different maps, and you could catch these events if you wanted them to all navigate together. Kind of fun. How about controlling the map? So we can, in C# now, we can leverage the classes that are available for switching map modes. So road, aerial with labels, using the buttons, and firing off those events, and just switching the map mode when you click on buttons. All right. Setting the map view. So we've got a lot of tools built into this. We can specify lat longs and whatnot. Maybe if I do this, it'll just center it on the 00 mark. But we've got some preset buttons. Zoom down. So based on boundaries that you specify in lat long form, I want to just see the US, I want to just see Australia, I want to just see California, for example. And you can set all that, and as you go into the code here, you'll see how to do that. Here, setting the map view. Okay? All right. So, using pushpin. So a lot of the things that I showed you today, a lot of the applications that you saw today, the demos, the code walkthroughs, I got from the Interactive SDK. Okay, a lot of the applications that I even built for this were based on stuff from the SDK. So it's super functional, super easy to use. So here's one using a non-scaling pushpin, and this illustrates how you can make it pinned to an exact lat long. So when we're talking about the push pin being 50 by 50, you want to specify the top left corner versus the bottom right corner. You have that level of control. Just flipping over to the source code here, we actually do it in XAML. And just pass this in here as path data. And this actually shows some of that here, so we can add. Do bottom left, bottom right, top center. So that illustrates how you have levels of control with push pins. All right. How about shape layers? So I want to render a polygon. I want it to have a certain fill, certain opacity, certain border thickness, all that control right in the XAML there. So the Interactive SDK is a great way to just get going. We've even got the web services built out here. We'll do search, actually. Let's see if we can find casinos in Las Vegas. Oh. So what that just did was it hit our search service, and it looked for all the casinos in Las Vegas. Using the web service, brought back the results. We registered layers for the pins, added them to the map. We've got some additional data about the actual pin. Throw it in a hover, the contact information for each location, and just render it right on the map. So how do we do that? Right here. Again, I won't walk through this, but it is available for you to go up and check it out as time permits. Okay. So that's the Interactive SDK. Okay, so how to get it? Go to Microsoft Connect, connect.microsoft.com. It's in that Virtual Earth Map Control CTP directory. You log in with a Windows Live ID. You get your DLL, you get your CHUM. Interactive SDKs there as well. And what's great about this is if you've ever used Virtual Earth before, there's this concept of credentials and you need a username and password. Well, we've opened that up for the CTP. So you don't have to worry about authentication. You just start using the control. You don't have to hit our token service or anything like that. We're actually handling that on the back end for the CTP. Okay? Okay, so now I will take some questions if you have them. If you guys don't mind going up to the mics.
Yeah, you talked about earlier getting the data from the 2008 database and the geography forms and SQL geography.
Yeah.
Now, if I calculate a route, how easy to write that route back to a database using the SQL geography forms? Right now, it's more than a bit of a, well, let's call it a pain.
Yeah, you said the route?
Yeah, the route data. If I want to write that back to the database in SQL geography form.
Yeah, there's a method in Virtual Earth that allows you to extract route geometry. And you take that blob and you can stick it in your database. It probably, I don't even think it's one of the geometry types for SQL. Yeah, so there's some transformation that has to happen there. But we are working with the SQL team to improve that experience. So, time frame, I can't talk about futures, but it's in real time. Yeah.
So I didn't attend the session yesterday about multi-touch in Silverlight 3, but I'm wondering how that, if the Virtual Earth control is going to support multi-touch as well.
Yeah, it's a good question. At this point, it does not, but we are working with that team as well. I work with, so location is a huge deal at Microsoft. Every team they want location, so they get to work with me. So yeah, I believe that will happen, but I can't specify exactly when or anything like that. But yeah, that's definitely part of the plan.
And I guess on those lines, is there going to be a Surface Virtual Earth control released anytime soon, officially from Microsoft?
Can't talk about that.
Okay. In the JavaScript API, it was pretty simple to just point a layer to a GeoRSS or KML file and auto-populate that. Is it possible here the same way?
Did we add that to the CTP? I want to say we did. I guess we didn't add that. Did we not add that? Yeah. We didn't add that for the CTP.
Will it come later?
Yeah, it will be on par with the Ajax control by the time we release. Yeah.
When you had the demo up of the countries outlined, and then when you zoomed in, how detailed can you get that? As far as
for the polygons?
Yes.
Yeah, in fact, it's you can get as detailed as you want because we're not dealing with as many performance issues. You can have high-resolution polygons now. So, but there are some tricks of the trade that you want to leverage still based on the zoom levels. So at the high level, that was probably good enough. But as you zoom in, you might want to make more requests to get more accurate polygon shading or the boundaries. That mic just turned off.
Oh. Just have different collections in the database?
Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it, yeah. Okay. So you would have a normalized and, yeah.
Actually, the other way, can it draw polygon on the map and then get coordinates for, I don't know, for this data?
Yeah, you can, there's a lat long to pixel converter, so you can get all the pixels that it's registered to and then extract that information, yeah. And vice versa, pixel lat long too. Yeah, SQL. What? Right. I'll repeat it. Right. He's just mentioning that SQL Server 2008 has geographic functions for that. Yeah.
It's my understanding that in the current Ajax implementation, there is the capability of taking multiple points that are overlapping from the perspective of the user and combining them into a single point in order to be able to make a simpler view of things when you've got many points. Yep. And since the concept of a pushpin goes away here, do you have any recommendations as to ways in order to replicate that functionality or something we can leverage there in order to get the same kind of thing without having to go back to the server and say, recalculate all these points and give me a group, a grouped point versus a single point based on the current zoom level?
Yeah. We didn't add that to the CTP, but that will be in the final release.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a few questions. Do you have support for the ISO standards, WFFs, WMS, etc., for geographical standards?
I didn't hear the question.
The geographical web service standards, like WMF, WMS, etc.
Yeah, we haven't added support for the OGC standards except for GeoRSS and KML. Well, it's not in the CTP yet, but so for like web map service, WMS stuff, no, we don't have support for that yet.
Okay. How about, is it possible to load the control with your own background data? For example, if you have better background data in a local area?
Is it possible to transform it? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, to use your own background data instead of the one that Microsoft's.
Yes.
Lives.
Actually, yes, you can. One of the great things about the Silverlight control, and I didn't talk about this, was you can rip out our maps and put in your own maps. You can actually specify the projections. You can set your own map projections, things like that. So, and still have that Silverlight experience. That is one of the methods in there.
Okay. What type of geo servers do you support? Like what other, for example, the Esri servers, etc.
What type of which kind of server?
ArcGIS server and so on.
Oh, there's no native connection to any Esri products or MapInfo products or anything like that. So Esri has created their own Silverlight map control for Virtual Earth. They're not using ours. And we have a relationship with them that will allow you in ArcGIS desktop or server convert your GIS data out to an Ajax or Silverlight map using Virtual Earth tiles. But we're not doing anything there. They're just leveraging our APIs for that.
Is there anywhere I can read about that?
Yeah, if you go to my blog, I've got some information there. Or you can email me. That's not up there, but sure with that.
What was the scoop on bird's eye view and what's up with 3D?
Yeah, okay. Now's a good time to hand out the posters. Okay, so bird's eye. Bird's eye is a massive data collection, and it's a different data set that's encrypted, and we just didn't add it. We've got some other plans for that. So, will you help me with this? I've got posters for everybody who came. So,
was there a plan for some sort of 3D control in the future at some time?
A 3D control? Well, actually, we've done some experimentation with the 3D control in Silverlight, and it was pretty horrible. Yeah, we are working on something big. So, can't tell you what. But.
Just one question on extensibility with the SDK. Will there be the ability to take a set of pre-cached tiles that you've created using the same schema as what Virtual Earth uses in Web Mercator and drape those over the control itself?
Yeah, you can do that today.
You can do that today?
That's part of the Silverlight control, yeah. I just didn't talk about it.
Okay. Is there a way to integrate, let's say, SQL Server 2008 spatial types in an effective manner, or do you have to wire all that up yourself at this point? Like if you wanted to work with spatial data types that were in SQL Server 2008,
right?
Geometry, geography types, and suck that in somehow to actually render those as graphics, let's say.
Right.
Is there any sort of capability that's pre-packaged out of the box, or is all that manual at this stage?
There's none available today.
Okay. Good stuff. Is something coming, actually, or can you talk about that?
Well, I can't talk about the future.
Okay.
Yeah, so here, give me one of those. So yeah, actually, you just probably want to put them up on the stage. So I got these posters. Speaking of bird's eye, so come up and get one if you want a poster. I got about 100, and the more you take, the less I have to carry home. Hey, Train, just leave them up here, buddy. Question?
Hi, I'd just like to know about KML support.
Yeah.
How full-featured that's going to be? Because in KMZ, embedded images and displaying those as overlays.
Yeah.
How full-featured is that going to be? Or is it at the moment?
We will have that support.
Yeah, full.
For the release, once it's at a CTP.
Right.
Yeah, it'll be on par with the Ajax control, but it'll be better, obviously, for performance reasons.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What will happen with the Ajax version? Will it fade out, and when?
Okay, so what will happen with the Ajax version? Thanks, Trey. We're going to keep the Ajax version going. We're going to continue to innovate. There is a specific developer audience that we're addressing with the Ajax control. So that's not going away anytime soon. So we'll just continue to build and have several platforms. So, one second. Go ahead.
Just a quick one. You created the pushpin look and feel in XAML. What about the ERO? Is there a default view for that, or do I have to build that in XAML as well?
You would have to build that, yeah. So you add register a map layer for that, and then just throw an event and fire it up at a pixel.
Okay, and I can also data bind those and like put them in a user control, pull them in dynamically?
Right,
okay.
Exactly, yep. Yeah.
So for the web service, is there any commercial offering so you can guarantee level of service, those types of things?
Guarantee what?
Level of service, like some of the service you offer as a commercial offer. So the customer can pay, but they get a guarantee, like 99%, whatever.
Yeah, there's an SLA for the web service. It's 99.9 uptime. Yeah. Any other questions? I think I got one more slide here.
How about WPF?
How about WPF? It's very similar to the Surface question. We don't have anything to announce at this time, but it's something we're very interested in. Absolutely. Yeah. So fill out your survey. I think it's like 2 questions. I appreciate it if you guys fill that out. This is the session ID. Come get posters, please. I don't want to take them home. And if there's no more questions, thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming to MIX.